Okay, so you ready to dive in?
Always. Let's do it.
Awesome. Today we're tackling a pretty pretty pivotal moment, I guess you could say, in medieval history.
Uh-oh. Big stuff.
Yeah. The fall of Edessa in 1144.
Oh, yeah, that is a big one. Huge ramifications.
Yeah, and you sent over some really great sources on this. And I'm especially interested in we've talked about this a little before, like why did this one event like spark this massive Second Crusade?
Right.
It's not every day that a single city's fate kind of changes the course of history, right?
Well, and truly, like, the fall of Edessa, I mean, it was more than just a military defeat, right? Like, to really understand the impact we have, to understand what Edessa represented to the Christian world.
Okay, so set the scene for me.
Yeah.
What was Edessa, and why was it so important?
So think about the Crusader states, right?
Good.
Established in the wake of the First Crusade. And there are these pockets of Christian control in a predominantly Muslim region.
Right.
And Edessa was like one of the first and arguably the most symbolic of these strongholds.
Okay.
You know, it represented the furthest reach of Christian power in the East, a beacon of their claim to the Holy Land.
So when Edessa fell, it was almost like losing a key piece on the chessboard, both strategically and symbolically.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that your sources actually do a really great job of capturing the sheer panic that ensued after this happened.
Really?
Yeah, like one chronicle even describes it as a thunderbolt from heaven.
Wow.
Like this blow that shook the foundations of Christendom. Suddenly, the seemingly invincible Crusader project, it felt vulnerable, almost exposed.
Yeah, that makes the Pope's call for the Second Crusade, it makes it seem less like a knee-jerk reaction,
Yeah.
and more like a desperate attempt to regain control.
Yeah.
Almost like plugging a hole in a dam before the whole thing bursts.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And the impact of that call was huge. I mean, we're not talking about a small expedition here. This was a full-blown crusade with figures like Louis VII of France, Conrad III of Germany, leading armies across continents. But it wasn't, a unified front.
Right.
And in fact, one of the most dramatic consequences of Edessa's fall was the fracturing of the alliance between the Byzantine Empire and the Crusader states.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, both sides kind of saw the other as unreliable after this, creating tensions that would actually last for decades.
So the loss of Edessa didn't just trigger the Second Crusade, it also reshapes the entire political landscape.
Totally.
Like sowing these seeds of distrust and changing these alliances.
Absolutely. And here's where the story takes an even more intriguing turn, I think.
Okay.
While the Second Crusade was unfolding, questions lingered about how Edessa had fallen in the first place.
Yeah, like how did this happen?
Right. And your sources point to two main theories, both of which I think are pretty captivating.
This is where it gets really interesting. Let's unpack those.
Okay, so the first theory centers around this idea of betrayal, perhaps from within Edessa itself.
Ooh, interesting.
Was there a secret plot, a hidden weakness that was exploited by the enemy?
Right.
And your sources actually mentioned a few figures who were suspected of treachery, even hinting at possible communication with the enemy before the siege.
Oh, wow, a conspiracy. Okay, so what about the other theory? What's that one?
So that one focuses more on the changing dynamics of power in the region. Remember, the political landscape was constantly in flux,
Right.
with all these various factions vying for control.
Yeah.
Edessa, which was positioned right on the frontier, it became a pawn in this larger game.
Right.
And the sources suggest that certain powers may have intentionally weakened Edessa, seeing its fall as advantageous to their own ambitions.
So it's like a historical whodunit.
Yeah.
A city with immense symbolic importance falls, and the reasons remain kind of shrouded in mystery. What stands out to you about these theories? Do you lean toward one or the other?
It's hard to say definitively. Like, both theories have their merits, and the historical record is open to interpretation. What's fascinating to me is that even today, historians still debate the exact circumstances of Edessa's fall. It speaks to the enduring power of this event.
Right.
How a single moment can spark centuries of debate and analysis.
Yeah, and that's what I love about history. So if we connect all of this back to you, the listener, imagine for a moment that Edessa had held strong. How might history have unfolded differently? Would there even have been a Second Crusade? Would those alliances have crumbled? What would the map of the Middle East look like today? It's incredible to think how this one event, the fall of a single city, sent ripples through time, shaping the world we live in.
Absolutely.
Wild.
It's amazing.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with me.
Yeah, this was a good one.
Until next time.
See ya.